All right, welcome back to the Athens Film Festival 2025 Creator Interviews. Today I'm here with Aaron Strand, writer director of the film Withdrawal, showing at the film festival this August. Aaron, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. We had a bit of tech problems, but we're working through it.
It'll all be good. It'll all be good.
Yeah, we've got it. I guess we'll just jump right in that case here. Where did the inspiration for Withdrawal come from?
Well, the inspiration came, unfortunately, for better or for worse, from my own life. I struggled a lot with drugs when I was younger. I have been sober for over 12 years now. I got sober in January of 2013. But I had a lot of experience as a longtime opiate user as a kid, and ever since I got sober, I was almost as soon as I got sober, I was looking for a way to sort of communicate what I had experienced artistically. I originally started as an actor, and that's what I went to school for, and that's sort of the profession that I thought my life would be dictated by. But it was really the pursuit of trying to share some of my own personal experience that initially pushed me towards writing and directing. Again, all 12 years ago, and it's been a decades long journey to get to this point. But I'm very grateful that I have gotten here.
Wow, yeah, absolutely. I mean, congrats on 10 years there, absolutely. And yeah, it's such a personal story, it sounds like, too. And, you could tell you've said, I think, in an interview actually, that the script was largely based on some of your journals. Was that true? And how did you approach, translating like personal experience into characters and storylines there?
Well, not so much journals exactly, and I do want to be very careful because the movie is not intended to be autobiographical.
Mm,
Like this, the movie is narrative fiction. It's a dramatic rendering that sort of distills a lot of the core experiences that I had. But I want the characters to be able to exist on their own accord, outside of me. Like you don't need to know me to for this movie to make sense, which I think is a very important thing. This is like
yeah.
it's not about me. Um, but I did translate. I did go back to some source material for elements of that even directly influenced the script. I know I've told this story before, which is that right after I got sober, I was Facebook messaging with an old friend of mine from
Wow.
college named Melanie Wallner, and I told her what was going on with me, which was very embarrassing. Right, I was like filled with shame because I
Mm,
had had a lot of early success in my career in New York City, and now all of a sudden I'm back home in Athens, Georgia, like a place I swore I would never come back to, like with nothing and trying to turn my life around. And
mm,
so I was messaging with her, and she asked me what was it like. Or when she asked some question about like when did you know that you had a problem, or like when you had entered into addiction. And I sent this long DM about, well, it's like there's all these different voices I hear in my head, and one voice is saying this, and like the the baby me is saying this, and the adult me is saying this.
mm,
And I sent her that Facebook message, and I'll never forget. She responded back and said, "This could be a monologue,"
oh,
and it's such an innocuous like little thing. And she was a writer, mind you,
mm.
and it's the first time anyone ever told me that anything I wrote was like any good. It was honestly, I thought I was a bad writer because I had never been encouraged, and
Mm.
she was the first person that ever encouraged me, and it really sort of like in my head gave me a little bit of a green light to continue to pursue that art form. Now granted, everything else that I was writing around that time was absolute dog shit, but still, like, her words meant a lot to me. And what's crazy is that I went back and literally copy and pasted that Facebook message, and it turned into a monologue that one of the characters says in the movie, almost verbatim of what I wrote in 2013.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So there's definitely that separation, I guess, of you're not being autobiographical, but there is some real influence of like things that just came about genuinely in the moment like that. Um,
Sure, sure.
yeah, but I know you wrote and directed and I think edited this film. How did wearing all of those hats kind of affect your process and trying to remain objective, especially given how close the story is to you?
Oh, well, it's really the happy spot of where I like to work. I work professionally as a one-man band production company. I'm very used to writing, directing, very oftentimes shooting, and then editing my own stuff. Um, in terms of objectivity, like there's also obviously there's always going to be sort of like crossing streams or whatever, but hopefully I think that's where technique really comes in, and it's something that I really want to hit hard on. Look, like I can comfortably make fun of myself as of being a terrible writer in 2013 because I completely lacked technique as to how to tell a functional narrative story. I did not understand the craft of storytelling, and it took me a decade of trying to even begin to make progress on how to tell a story. And what gives me confidence to be able to wear all these hats now is that it's not I don't feel I'm not making decisions based on necessarily what I want. Now granted, of course I have opinions here, but I do feel that the story sort of dictates what it needs to be, and there's a form and function to it all, and all you have to do as an artist is to deeply 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 understand that form and function, and then do your best to live up to it. So it's not about like I'm making decisions that are necessarily like making or breaking this film. The film exists in some degree of sort of objective perfection, like outside of me, and I have to attempt to sort of like live up to the story that is already sort of existing out into the ether, and that really helps kind of get you out of yourself and not make it so much about your whims and opinions. I have zero problems cutting things that I love. I have it, whether it's in the writing process, in the editing room, in the directing, in the moment in directing. If something's just not working, great, fuck it, let's cut it. Like let's move on. Or if someone has a great idea to add something into the scene, that's also great. For this film, we rehearsed for 6 months with the actors. The actors contributed mightily to how the characters talked, how they spoke, what happened on our set. We had a rule of see something, say something, which empowered everyone on set to be able to speak up if they had an idea that they wanted to pitch. Granted, that also when you're in a leadership position with that environment, sometimes that puts you in a position where you have to say, no, I don't think we're going to do it that way. But but still, the open environment is very important. And so yeah, I think as much as you can get out of yourself and your own ego as it associates to the art is definitely the better. And it's definitely where I find the results, and honestly where I'm happier. I think the artistic process is a lot happier that way. So yeah, all that to say is that I hope to continue working as a writer, director, editor, but at the end of the day, this is an incredibly collaborative art form, and ultimately the art should be dictating to you what it actually is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We could, infusing yourself into something, but also it's, absolutely a collaborative effort. And also just, you have this story that's pretty confined to like one location. What were the creative challenges and advantages of, kind of keeping a story in one location for you guys?
Sure. Well, the creative advantages are obviously budget, and I always try to write. I try to write to budget at all times. I have zero scripts that involve anything that I don't think, if need be, I could shoot as a one-man band. And I think that's very important as as an independent artist. Not from a lack of ambition or motivation to like shoot bigger stories, but like I think it's about like setting yourself up for success. The single location is great for that. One of my favorite all-time documentaries is the Lars von Trier film The Five Obstructions, where Lars he tracks down one of his filmmaker heroes, this Danish oh god, of course his name is like slipping my mind as soon as I start talking about it. Okay, cut this little digression, please. One of my favorite films is The Five Obstructions, where Lars von Trier tracks down one of his Danish filmmaking heroes and invites him to remake his experimental short film, The Human. The Oh God! Of course, my fucking. Hold on, I just gotta look this up. It's gonna kill me.
It's
Okay,
all right. We can also edit this.
fantastic. Okay.
So we don't do it
Oh,
live. For a reason.
Jürgen Leth. That was before it came up on Google. His name is Jürgen Leth. That was before it came up on Google. And The Perfect Human. God damn it! Of course I fucking know this. Okay. One of my favorite all-time documentaries is called The Five Obstructions, where Lars von Trier tracks down one of his cinematic heroes, a filmmaker named Jürgen Leth, and invites him to remake his experimental film from the 60s called The Perfect Human. And he's asked to remake it 5 times, and each time von Trier introduces an increasing series of obstructions. So like the first one is like no shot can be longer than like 20 frames or
Oh
something
wow.
like that. For which, like, for anyone who doesn't know, there's 24 frames in every second of normal cinematic film. So if a shot can't last longer than 20 frames, that means no shot can last longer than a single second. And what starts off as Jürgen Leth, because Jürgen Leth is retired when he is approached for this, what starts off as like him being annoyed and slightly bemused by this younger filmmaker, like being a pain in his ass, actually transforms into a younger filmmaker reinvigorating the artistic spirit in his hero.
Mm.
What the thesis of the film is that it's not open accessibility that is the source of creativity. It's the obstacles and the problems and the challenges that stand in our way that are the spur of creativity. So if you can embrace confined storytelling, whether that be through time, a story that takes place within several hours, or a story that takes place within a single location. Our film more or less had both. I mean, we had a flashback structure, but the A storyline took place within about a 24-hour period. It could really encourage, I think, a lot of creative choices that force you to get deeper into the characters and deeper into what you're actually trying to say.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I got a film recommendation now. Um, but yeah, it seems like that challenge and that adversity absolutely makes some innovation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And at its core, the story seems to be about struggle in a lot of different ways, and connection and love under the confines of those struggles. Was there anything that you in particular wanted to say about codependency and survival and connection within the parameters of addiction?
Well, they're certainly interrelated. What did I want to say? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I wanted to say anything. I mean, of course, I wanted to say stuff. How do I answer this question? I should have been more prepared for this. This is a softball. I mean, no offense to the question, but like
No, I felt
I
bad. I
should
was
have
like,
this.
this is a bad question now.
No, not a bad question at all. Let me put it this way. I have a thing. It's like this is like the main thing that I do as a storyteller. Even the greatest artists that have ever existed, they have like maybe 2, maybe 3 stories that they tell just over and over again in like different packages, right? Well, my story, for whatever reason, is that I am obsessed with love. I love seeing depictions of love on screen. And then as a storyteller, I enjoy watching that love being tested at the extremes of the human experience.
Mm.
And if you can convince an audience to root for 2 people that believe that they love each other, even if their love is deeply toxic and problematic, it moves you on not an intellectual level, but on an emotional level to root for the fallibility of the human experience. And I find this incredibly moving. And it's something that like still drives my own life. I mean, my from being a crazy drug addict as a kid, now I'm married, I got a kid, I got another kid on the way. Like my life is like incredibly not what it used to be. It might be because my life is so stable now that I'm able to tell like more extreme stories. I think there's probably like a direct correlation to that. But anyway, but I do, yeah. I believe in the power of love as a human, as an artist, and I enjoy watching that power being tested, particularly when it's human-driven mistakes that kind of create that emotions undoing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. No, absolutely. It's the most, base compelling emotion, I feel like, in a lot of ways. As a director, how do you guide your actors through, portraying this though?
Yeah, well, it's a matter of like you want to be really careful. Safety is a huge priority on any set that I'm in charge of. Like I said, I'm an actor first, and so I try to make actor first productions. Um, and that's where I'm happiest. And honestly, those are the movies that I like the most. I think there is nothing more compelling than the human face, no matter how many like teal and orange color palettes or like golden hour like scenes you can shoot. So we developed that safety and that compassion and trust, certainly between the two lead actors, Millie Rose Evans and Brent Michael, and myself, over a 6-month rehearsal process where we were developing the script. We were meeting once or twice a week in my living room and like fleshing out the beats and the scenes. We really developed a rapport. That way, we then brought in an intimacy coordinator, a wonderful intimacy coordinator here in Atlanta named Christina Arjona, who's a great director in her own right, to partake in the film. And she actually came to some rehearsals and sort of worked with us on particularly the more obviously the intimacy elements. um,
Mm.
and so it's we really want to protect our actors. I don't believe at the end of the day, like, they are actors, and you do want to trust that they're able to pretend these violent extreme emotions that you are asking as a writer and director for them to tap into. I don't believe that we need to torture our performers in order to get something truthful about them. I believe in the power of drama and of the power of suspension of disbelief. Um, and so yeah, it's a delicate balance, and it's really very tailored to the individual. Some people like to have extensive conversations about sort of what they're feeling and thinking about a subject, and some people don't. Some people would rather you just shut the fuck up and leave them alone. And but it takes developing that real working rapport to try to figure out what each person needs. And then I try
Mm.
to just trust my own instincts and training as an actor to be able to communicate to them um, uh, in correspondence with that need. So yeah, it's always a tough thing, but those are the moments that are most beautiful. And I want people walking away from any film that I make feeling with their head held high and feeling proud about the work that they did, feeling proud about the vulnerability that they accessed, and feeling like they actually got to take a fucking adventure and an experience, and not that they showed up on set, you know, 3 hours before they were asked to deliver their lines, and then they left at the end of the day, and they walked away feeling like, what the fuck did I just do? I was just part of some like fucking machinery of a production. The director said all of 2 words to me. The DP looked at me like a goddamn piece of meat, and now I'm going back to my hotel room dreading the moment that this fucking TV show appears on some fucking streaming service. Like, that is not the feel. That is a feeling that I've had to experience a lot in my career, but it is not the feeling that I want people walking off of my set with.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like, there was a lot of a care and attention and like developing those relationships, especially with having, 6 months of rehearsal and all of this care and guidance and, the demands of these roles for these actors. Speaking of actors, I think I read that you cast Brent after he submitted a tape inspired by Panic in Needle Park. What made you feel he could carry this role, especially given the film's extremes and physicality and psychology?
I don't remember his. Maybe it was inspired by Panic in Needle Park. If he said that somewhere, then definitely refer to him. I mostly remember that his tape was late. He sent his tape late, or like he missed the deadline, and I was like, well, boat sailed on that one. And then he sent this tape in with this weird email, or this weird message that was like, yo, dude, sorry it was late. Not so good at the self tape thing. Like, but here you go. And he sent this self tape that was like, it was so weird. Like, it was clear that he hadn't done a lot of these, because the tape, the angle was like super wide. It was like you could see
Wow.
his whole body. It was not like a medium close up like most self tapes are. And yeah, but but certainly the talent was just like radiating off the screen. It was very clear that that he would be great for the role. But ultimately, all led up to we did 2 rounds of virtual auditions, and then we did an in-person callback, where 2 actresses up for the role of Viv and 4 or 5 actors up for the role of Jay came in, and all read with each other, all the different pairings. And it ultimately just came down to like kind of chemistry in the room. There was something about the way that Brent and Millie interacted with each other that it just it just was what it was. Like they had a connection that was that was interesting and loving, but also antagonistic and complex. There was a complexity to their interaction that just was special, and that's ultimately how they booked the parts.
Amen. Oh wow. Yeah, and it definitely shows. Absolutely. Speaking of complexity that adds to this story, the sound was something that stood out to me. Um, I don't know. I like a score. I like the ambiance in a track and all of that in a film. What was your process like collaborating with your composer for the music and what you wanted it to communicate for us?
Yeah, that's super cool. So, um, yeah, this was pretty late in the process. Once we already had the rough cut of the film done, I went looking for a composer. I spoke to a whole bunch of different composers and musicians whom I all really respect and love. Um, but reached out to an old collaborator of mine, or a collaborator friend of mine, a woman named Nicolette Emmanuel. We had done a play together in Atlanta, like 8, 9 years ago or something like that. She's also an aerialist, cellist, like just kind of all around badass. And she was like, "Yeah, I'll send over a temp track, a test track, or whatever." And she sent it over, and it really was just one of those moments where she played a little melody, and it was like what I was hearing in my head. It just was one of those, like, that's it. Like, you just did it without any direction. It was just right off the top of it just was that synchronicity. So she got the part, and I was really looking to yeah, the droning sound of the cello, the idea of a continuation, some sort of, yeah, this kind of like drone, eternal, slightly unsettling, slightly comforting kind of vibe was very important. There's little elements and sort of not homages, but definitely like elements to the effects of John Cale within some of those early Velvet Underground records, which are, of course, are like
Mm,
great heroin listening material, and definitely stuff that I listen to while getting high. There's something about that sound that it really just kind of resembles like the experience of getting high. I don't know how to describe it in the way that a undulating drone can then transform into sort of a screeching
mm,
dissonant anger. And this is like, and the idea of the cello and the bow's ability to create the same effect, both pushing and pulling, opposites having the same result. I don't know what this means, but it's something I've been fascinated by ever since I was a little kid. In fact, while I was an active drug user, I got a cello bow tattooed
whoa.
on my arm because I was so fascinated with that idea. A very
Wow.
20-year-old tattoo, let's admit, but still, it is. I have been into this kind of this overall ambiance, this feeling, for a long time, and luckily I was able to work with Nicolette, who just knocked it out of the park. She was able to anticipate things before I even said them. We went back and forth on, I don't know, 4 or 5 drafts of different tracks and stuff like that. But she's based in St. Louis, so this was all done virtually. But she just crushed it, and I'm just so grateful that she came on board, and I think it really elevates the material.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's so cool that it just like aligned like that for you guys and that she was just able to grasp it so well for you. It's so perfect for the film, it's, it's lucky to have them line up like that without a lot of fine tuning, cello
Yeah,
pun not
sure. Sure. This film was, the entire process was sort of met with synchronicities like that, which is a
intended.
great sort of, you know, there are great sort of signs you can read in the forest of like, are you on the right path or not, And
Mm,
those type of little synchronicities, people anticipating things before you say them, or people like offering suggestions that sort of tap into something that you've only felt in your dreams, but have never been able to articulate verbally.
mm,
These are all like great little signposts that you're on the right path. And if it feels like, and like, it's all hard and it's all incredibly stressful, but if it feels like you're really like dragging a boulder up a hill, then like chances are like you might not be in the flow state. I am not like a woo woo person at all. I don't believe in astrology. I don't believe in crystals. I don't believe in none of that shit. But I do believe in the sort of mysterious quality of making a film, um, and that there are certain things to look for, and there are certain things to be aware of or be wary of, if things are kind of not working quite right.
Yeah, absolutely. It shouldn't feel too Sisyphant. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine that's like very validating to kind of feel like things are coming into alignment for you, being so involved in this story. Did you feel, you know, any particular way like changed or validated as a writer, director, or just even like person with this experience because of this project? And the process of making it being, synchronistic like that, or even just the response being more positive.
Well, it's all incredibly validating. Yeah, I don't want to act like I'm too cool for school in that regard. I mean, for every New Year's Eve for the last 12 years. Well, I guess 10 years, I should say, before I started work on Withdrawal. Every New Year's Eve for the last 10 years, I've told myself this is the year that I make a feature film. And I was never able to accomplish that goal. I had misfires. I had shot an entire feature film that I wasn't able to finish. I had many, many setbacks and failures and carcasses along the way. Um, and so to be able to do it is, of course, incredibly gratifying. I am incredibly proud of the film, and I'm incredibly proud of all the work that I saw from all the collaborators who worked on the film. And I value the relationships that I was able to build through the film in a big way. But I think like you hear from most performers who are in it for the long haul, there's this incredible dynamic of um, uh, that as soon as the project is done, and of course we're not done. We're in we're in distribution era, which is like a whole new thing to me, and is a huge learning experience as well. But the hunger doesn't go away. I'm not satiated having made this movie. I've got more stories to tell. I got more movies to make, and now it's just. I mean, it's long story short, I just feel like I'm back to square one, like just as hungry as I was before making this film. But I think that's where the human element is. It's important to keep your priorities straight. I know, I don't believe, I know that when I am lying on my deathbed and I am thinking back to my life, I'm not going to be thinking about the movies I made. I'm going to be thinking about the people that I spent my time with, the people that I made work with. Hopefully, I'm thinking about how we were able to respect and value and work together and build relationships that really matter and express something of love and support and communion together. And I do think that the people that we make things with are ultimately the most important thing, and that's where I really want to try to keep the main thing. Because work, the need and desire to make stuff is frankly a curse. It is,
Yeah.
because this job doesn't pay for shit. It's incredibly, there is no structure built to support independent artists in a meaningful way. I'm about to have two kids. I'm terrified that they will look at me as somebody who chose a unfulfilling profession over the support of my children. I want them to look at me and be proud, but like the structural support is not here. There are so many problems with this art form, and there are so many challenges to being an artist. And so that's why I say that like the need to create does feel like a curse most of the time.
Mm.
But that's where again, you got to prioritize the people, because that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, just wisdom in all forms on that. Just the people are what matter. Absolutely.
Bars, straight bars.
They were your bars. They're being requoted to you. Oh gosh.
Oh
Well,
man.
I guess as we wrap up here, Aaron, thank you so much for talking with me. I mean, what a scope of conversation we've had. I hope my questions weren't too soft or too not
No, no, no.
soft.
I'm so sorry that I said that. No, your questions aren't soft at all. Your questions are great.
It's okay. I just have a lot of interviews, so if my questions feel redundant, they are for me too.
Under
Um,
yeah,
but,
I understand.
but Aaron, where can people find more about you and your work in the future?
Yeah, you can follow me primarily on Instagram. My Instagram handle is at Stranded on Stage. Please follow the film on Instagram at Withdrawal Film. Um, yeah, those are the best places to find me. You can. I also have a website, Aaron-Strand.com.
Awesome. And we'll be seeing Withdraw at the festival from August 14th through 17th. But you in particular have a special panel for art and mental health on August 15th at Flickr Theater and Bar.
Yeah,
Um,
super excited to partner with Nucci Space on that, and yeah, discussing in further depth about how to tell mental health stories, how to make it therapeutic, how to protect others while doing so, and yeah, I'm looking forward to having a great conversation.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time here today in our conversation. It's been amazing. And can't wait to see you at the festival.
Yeah, see you there.
All right. Thanks so much.
Bye.